What's up, JEFusion fans? This is Philip, and welcome back to another video. So this is actually part 2 in my history and evolution of Super Sentai suits. And today in this video, we're actually going to talk about, well, the longest and probably most iconic era in the evolution of Super Sentai suits. And by extension, this would actually span the entirety of the Power Rangers franchise. We're talking about the spandex suits. So, in order to begin, I'm going to recap a little bit from my previous video because in the first part, we talked about the first suits used in Super Sentai, which are made out of cotton. However, things changed in 1983 with Kagak Sentai Dynaman introducing the spandex suits. Now, let's talk about spandex and cotton suits in general. So, as you might see in, like a lot of shows, if you compare the cotton suits versus the spandex suits, spandex suits are, how do you say, like a lot more visible on camera. Now, in a general comparison, so there are advantages and disadvantages to using either material. So, first and foremost, if we talk about cotton suits, they're, of course, like the cheapest option to use, and they're easy to make. However, with spandex suits, while they are generally more expensive, like it has more elasticity. So it's more flexible. It's easier to move in. Well, yes, you can move easily with cotton suits. You might have to make them like bigger, in order to fit your movements, which, like I've mentioned in the previous video, cotton suits tended to be a bit baggy looking, while spandex, because they are more elastic, so you can fit them tighter onto the body while still, providing a lot of flexibility and movability. And spandex tends to be more durable than cotton. While we can also say that, you know, spandex can be mixed with some cotton cloth, uh, most likely within, like the inner side, I guess, for like breathability, comfort, and what have you. But in general, when Super Sentai, when Toei started introducing uh, like the spandex suits, so again, they tended to look much better. And for example, in Chodenshi Bioman, so Green 2, for example, and I believe Green 2 is the first Green Ranger in the spandex era. And like I mentioned earlier in the previous video, that green suits tended to be darker. Well, in some shots, Green 2's suit kind of looks dark, like because of the glossiness of spandex in general. It looks much better and at least a bit brighter or even more vibrant on camera. So again, like Green Rangers in this era looked better than their cotton era counterparts. So again, a lot of the advantages of spandex as a material, while it is the more expensive material, the benefits far outweighed the cost, which is why, for basically almost 40 out of the 50 years that Super Sentai has run, spandex had been their go to material. And if you're a Western viewer, that would, of course, like I said, span the entirety of the Power Rangers franchise. Now, being the franchise or being the show that introduced Super Sentai to the world, Jew Ranger, uh, I guess ingrained into the minds of like young viewers everywhere that these Rangers wear multicolored spandex suits. Again, because of how long Super Sentai has used spandex as their main material, it's become an iconic material, if you would say. It became the trademark for, you know, uh, like even for non-tokusatsu fans, like at least someone who's heard of like Power Rangers, for example, they would imagine like colorful spandex suits. Again, going back to the longevity of how, or like how long Toei has used spandex for Super Sentai suits in general, I would say it would have been starting from Dynaman and lasting to probably up until I would say Dawn Brothers. So I'm also probably gonna think of shows like maybe Zen Kaiser, like at least for Zen Kaiser and Two Kaiser and Stacy, perhaps. But yeah, imagine for basically almost 40 years, right? Spandex being used for such a long time, and like it's become like almost like the thing that you would associate Super Sentai with. Like Super Sentai equals spandex suits, which again I would understand because of how long it's been used. I probably am talking in a loop here, but I would say like this is the most iconic era in Super Sentai history because of most of the popular shows that, again, especially the those shows that have been turned into Power Rangers, further boosting the popularity of Super Sentai, they all came from this era. Now, speaking of Power Rangers and Super Sentai, when it comes to spandex suits, you would notice that in the Japanese footage, the suits tend to look shinier and glossier, while the Super Sentai counter, or rather Power Rangers, I'm sorry, well, the Power Rangers counterparts tend to be less shiny and glossy. What am I talking about here? I think the best or worst example, it depends on how you perceive it. Like, take for example, Kyoryu Gold and Ryuso Gold. Okay, their Power Rangers counterparts, looking at those suits, they look so dull. Okay, I don't know what went on in the minds of, Hasbro perhaps, but in general, especially like later seasons, like Dino Charge, or like the last season, like Super Dino Fury, I guess. Like those suits, again, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't say they're bad, but yeah, the quality of the spandex, like it's very very different. Like they look so dark on camera. Like why did they use such darker material, or like less glossy? I guess it's more of a mix uh material. It's not pure spandex, I would say. But yeah, looking at the Power Rangers suits, they're a lot less attractive to look at. Like the colors don't pop in my opinion. But I don't know. That's what uh, Saban or Hasbro or Disney did with the Ranger suits. But well, oh, I guess that's what they did. We can't do anything about it. But yeah, spandex is again like the most iconic material, like I've mentioned many times already, I know. But it's what made Super Sentai the way it is in terms of like suit and costume design. You know, like you still can't remove that association with, between these two. And I think some of my favorite suits still come from this era of, Super Sentai. Yeah. So what do you think of spandex being used in Super Sentai? Let me know down in the comments. In the next video, I will talk about what would be the new generation of Super Sentai suits and the suits that are basically used today. So stay tuned. And as always, thanks for watching. Please do leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell so you get the latest from JEFusion. This has been Philip, and I'll see you in the next one.